going to be Hill, they're going to be Hopkins, and they cross the line. It's Hill by 6 thousandths of a second.
The Outside Line Podcast, reuniting your hosts, the legendary commentary duo of Jack Bernicle and James Whittam.
But he's not on the right side of him unless he can do it. Oh no! Round the outside! Oh, what a move!
Welcome to episode 2 of The Outside Line. Now, James, what has been going on at the Northwest 200, particularly between Messrs Hickman and Dunlop?
Yes. Firstly, Northwest for me was brilliant. I've competed in the Northwest. I won a production race there when they used to race huge production bikes on the GSXR 1100. Really enjoyed the place. It's changed a little bit as a circuit now. Same basic shape, but they put chicanes in everywhere, and they've had to do, because the bikes these days, they'll be doing 230 mile an hour. They've got flipping 2 mile straights.
Yeah.
That they've had to sort of chop up with really nicely done chicanes. There's 4 or 5 of them, including the start and finish, actually. I thought it came across really well on TV. I was going to try and get across, just didn't have time once everything were working out. I've got TT coming up. I'm doing a bit of research for that, plus running Huddersfield International, obviously. So I watched everything on TV. It looked mega. The weather was fantastic. Clearly, the Northwest is in Northern Ireland, and it's no worse than Yorkshire, but we don't have a big road race in Yorkshire, and the weather does affect the Northwest 200 quite a lot in recent years, but actually they've got perfect weather, perfect racing weather, perfect. I'm going to go and watch the Northwest punter weather as well. Never seen as many people watching from the long shots, helicopter shots, drone shots. Amazing, beautiful, and it's just a lovely part of the world. Did you see, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the things about Northwest, the coast road, so you basically Coleraine, Port Rush, Port Stewart. It's a big triangle with chicanes, basically. The coast road's a bit wiggly, but the coast road's the only bit that runs obviously next to the coast. And those long shots with the bikes going small, but going really quick, if you take your eye off that and look at the coast, unreal. It's just a beautiful part of the world. And they had a really good do. And I never knew this until I'd actually done the Northwest. You don't pay to get in. There's no way they can fence it and turnstile it. The only way the organisers make money is the locals make money out of selling burgers and tea and guest houses and Airbnbs, etc. The organisers only make money from a little bit of sponsorship, but programme sales. And so when they have a big crowd, they do really well. Off the back of programmes, not off entrance fee. Yeah. So really pleased to see that worked really well for the organisers. Brilliant. The actual racing, some of it was just brilliant, stunning. Especially the smaller classes, because slipstreaming keeps everybody together, because the straights are still long, even with the chicanes. It's fast stuff. So that was really good. Really good. Well, good to see Richard Cooper having a go. He's a short circuit man, but he does the Northwest every year, and he's about, I don't know, 50 or something. I don't know what he is. He's old. He looks about 12 still. Clearly found the fountain of youth, but also really pleased Hutchie got his first podium in a long time. I bet you were pleased to see that.
8 years since that dreadful leg break.
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Really, really pleased to see that, and really pleased to see him still emotional.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like to see that emotional stuff afterwards. Oh, man up. But I'm thinking, hang on, I like to see the passion involved. You know, the fact he's kept doing it, and it looks like it. And he had it, weirdly, I saw it coming a little bit, because he had a good rider in the Superstock race, went a second quicker around Oulton than he's ever gone before. So clearly getting on with that BM. But the main thing we all saw, if you did watch any of the Northwest, was the shenanigans between Hickman and David Todd and Michael Dunlop. They all had a good Northwest, especially Michael and David Todd. I think 3 wins apiece in the bigger classes. The incident in the last Superbike race, because you're going along what is a really fast country road, and they put chicanes in, the chicanes turn off what is normally, for 90% of the year and more, just a main road. You wouldn't even know the chicane were there. It's just a bit of time. It's like a lay-by almost. It goes off, and it's good. It's got curbs and everything. It just goes off and then back on, or off that side and back on. And like I said, there's 5 or 6 of them. The rule is if you miss a chicane, it's quite possible you miss your braking point, whatever, and you take the slip road is what is the normal road, obviously, and you don't go down what is the racing only chicane. Then there's a stop box, and you stop, put your foot down, and then you get off as quick as you can, and that's the rule. If you don't stop in the stop box, it's a 10-second penalty. Well, the problem is the normal pavement that's tarmac is still there between what is the chicane for the racing and the road, obviously, because it's at the side of the normal road. So when Hickey and Michael Dunlop went skittling off down the straight through and not taking the chicane, well, Hickey went off the pavement onto the road and stopped in the stop box. Michael Dunlop stayed on the pavement and then kind of jumped off the pavement at the end, didn't stop. He did slow down and he did lose time, but he didn't stop in the stop box. This caused big problems because they didn't impose a 10-second penalty. I get it. It's Northern Ireland. He's a Northern Irishman. It wasn't a classic running on down the old road, but I'm sure he suspected maybe he's going to get the 10-second penalty. Hickey seen his backside about it a bit. In my opinion, reasonable kind of justification for that.
Yeah.
David Todd, he did as well. The fact is, though, Michael Dunlop rode superbly well to get back and win the race, albeit with a failing bike of David Todd's, who wouldn't have caught him otherwise. I thought Hickey put it really well. He don't get upset, Hickey. He just says it how he sees it, and it's normally right, in my opinion.
And he retired to his
He didn't go on the
motorhome.
podium as a protest. David Todd said bits and bobs. It'll blow over. It's just, it's storming a teacup type stuff. But Lee Johnston, who was doing a brilliant job of the co-commentary over there, good mate of ours, he got it about right when he said, well, if there's no penalty for going down the pavement, everybody should go down the pavement, just miss the chicane out. What if, So anyway, it depends. I think it depends where you're from as to how you see all that.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought Northwest was fantastic. And weirdly, off the back of that, for years we've been saying, if you want to do well at TT in the roads, you must do some short circuit racing now. That's why Hickman's good round there. That's why David Todd. That's why, Josh Brooks, Glenn Irwin, fastest newcomer ever.
Michael's never been a short circuit.
Michael's
man
never been a short circuit man. Doesn't want to.
He was even in a team in the Endurance World Championship at Le Mans.
Yeah.
And he was noticeably slower than his teammates.
But he don't want to. He's not bothered.
No.
So he's the sort of bloke that bucks the trend. He still can take it to all them lads on the roads, and they know it. So it's maybe he doesn't. It amazes me that somebody can do that at the TT in the Northwest and not want to bother on short circuits. Really,
Yeah.
Anyway. He doesn't, and he's flipping good, isn't he?
And what?
Not wrong with his minerals.
What's been going on with the? There's been an FHO announcement.
Yeah, I
in
think she's
Fayham.
getting. It sounds like she's getting involved with Michael in his TT campaign.
Oh, okay.
In terms of putting some funds in, backing, sponsorship, whatever. Don't just know the details yet, but yes, that's a big swap round because all her old kit is been ridden by 810 Racing with David Todd and Hickey. That just keeps rumbling on, that shenanigans. It's like Coronation Street. Yeah.
There were other things were happening at the weekend, very, very notable things. Johann Zarco becoming the first Frenchman in 71 years to win
in the Premier class.
in France, the Premier class.
yeah.
The last man to
been
do
others.
it, was Pierre Monneray on a Gilera,
Yep.
and he won the 350 and 500 classes in 1954.
Yeah.
But that was won at Reims on a Gilera, and his dad George had actually been an outstanding rider before the war. But that was
Christ,
the
how
last.
far we're going back.
That was the last time.
What the hell were they riding?
I have no idea. That was the race the Formula One race where Mercedes-Benz introduced their first streamliners to make sure that they won that race
Have we
at
gone-
Reims.
It's like being trapped in a big TARDIS. Right, so there's Zarco thing.
But Zarco
Brilliant.
not only won it and won it rather brilliantly, but he was wearing Colin Edwards leathers from 25 years ago. It was wonderful to see those Castrol Honda leathers out in the open again. Great.
Really,
and
really
winning.
pleased to see Zarco winning it. You know, weird thing about being a Brit is you sort of brought up to view the French with suspicion. Right, that's just a traditional thing, isn't it? Right, it's a. But actually, I've raced for a couple of French teams and loved them. They're really good people. I was fortunate enough to do a one-off endurance race when it was originally at the Paul Ricard, and Christian Saruman, with team manager, loved every minute of it. They were brilliant people. You've got to fit in with them, but once they understand that you put an effort in for them and you're prepared to play, you know, their game kind of thing, they were absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. So I'm really pleased to see it. Really, quite moving scenes actually.
Yes.
You know, with the crowd singing.
Were there really 100,000 people there?
Yeah.
Blimey.
Not only that, inside information here, Sylvain Guintoli, the night before, looked at I don't know how I should be saying, I'm saying it, looked at a weather forecast, said it's going to be coming and going weather-wise. Johann Zarco there's a good chance he's going to win. He put a small wager on.
Did he really? Oh, nice. I hope he got a substantial amount of money out of it.
Correct. So that was a good thing. Really pleased to see Zarco. Zarco's a good bloke. I only know him because he opened the NEC show one of my first years working down there.
Yes.
Good bloke. Came for dinner with us, laughed with us. Very French.
Yes.
But he'd get involved in anything. Normally, you got a top GP star doing something like that. They wanted to turn up 10 minutes before they were supposed to be opening the show, cut a ribbon or whatever they were going to do, and then clear off. They wouldn't hang about with you. They wouldn't, and he would. He was absolutely brilliant. He even got him to, in front of about 2,000 people. Somebody said, do us a backflip because he used to, when he was a kid, he was a gymnast.
He did one on the Colin Edwards leathers, didn't he?
Yeah, well,
to celebrate the win.
Yeah, I didn't know he could still do it because he'd done it a few years ago at the NEC. Off the edge of the stage. Well, the health and safety people at NEC who were not into motorbikes went nuts. They thought he was going to break his neck, but he'd done it. By the time they got onto it and issued him a flipping crash mat and an Ivy's jacket, he'd already flipping done it, right? So really, really, really pleased to see that.
And that one was done in the full Edwards leathers. Yeah, it was very impressive.
Brilliant. Yeah, real good.
And also, I was particularly delighted to see another really lovely bloke, Lorenzo Savadori, who's had a pretty mean time of it in recent years, mainly as a test rider for Aprilia with occasional outings. But he got inside the top 10.
Good that.
Because he'd made a very early decision that his slick tyres weren't going to do the job, and bang, he came in and sorted himself out.
On that note, I think it was a little bit of a, really glad to see Zarco win it, but a little bit of a shambles, really. I mean, what's wrong with having the old system is it's declared a dry or a wet race. If it's declared a dry race, you're kind of safe in the fact that if it does come on to rain, the organisers are going to stop it.
Yes.
Right? So you can afford to take a little bit of a risk on your tyres, on drier tyres. If it's declared a wet race, then you stick with your decision. It's known that it could be or is wet, damp, in between. And you're a professional rider. You don't just survive on how you ride the bike. It's your decisions you make. You compound the tyres if it's dry or whatever. You know, you're an experienced rider at that level. And you've got to make a decision. Not some going into the pit. It was a complete shambles. And I'm glad he won it because he was the one who mucked about less than anybody else. So I don't know why they just can't say, yeah, it's wet. Put your big boy pants on, make a decision, off you go. So it's a bit odd, really, that.
I was personally delighted for Savadori because he's a lovely bloke who was once trapped with me in a lift when we were on duty at World Superbikes, and I mistook him from Federico Caricazzulo because they are quite similar looking. But I started nattering at him about World Super Sport, about which he knew nothing because he was in Superbikes at the time, or even Super Stock. And he was very polite, bless him. He treated me.
What happened to the lift?
The lift did eventually arrive at ground level, and we were released for breakfast. There was another French success at the weekend because the former MXG2 world champion Tom Vial, another Frenchman, he won his second back-to-back 250cc Supercross title in the States, the Eastern Region Supercross title, which is very impressive. And he's got to move on to the bigger bike next year. That's on a Red Bull KTM. Well, we all know that at the moment there's a lot of uncertainty in what's going to happen with KTM in the immediate future. It's rumoured that by the 23rd of May, on the 23rd of May, they've got to have found 600 million if they want to carry on, because they're owing about 2 billion. They've had to suspend manufacturing again because they can't get hold of spare parts. This is hardly surprising because the people they've shat on are the people who actually supply the parts for the bike.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can gather, and I'm not an expert, but I've had it explained to me that it all started to go wrong when they set their production and sales targets based on post-COVID numbers, which were always going to be not the same as whether they were more or less, it just so happened things were selling. They thought, right, here we go. And they've overproduced. I think that was the
they had about 140,000 bikes in stock across their various
the problem with that is, when you think about that, it's all right having a bike in stock that is on paper, because there's no value. It's just a paper value of, let's say it's a 10 grand motorbike.
Yeah.
Well, this time next year, it's a 5 grand motorbike.
Yes.
So just to have stock sat there is a complete disaster, is it not?
And it is. They've also moved the MotoGP operation to Switzerland, haven't they? Because they think that they can attract more sponsorship if they're outside Europe and in an independent country.
It seems amazing to me, Jack, that normally when a company's failing, it's generally because you look at the product and think, yeah, well, they didn't move on, or they didn't invest, or they didn't adapt, but actually, everybody who's ever done any motocross or enduro in off-roading has had a KTM. They were benchmark stuff.
Massive. They're the most successful manufacturers in top-class motocross in the last 20 years.
Well, actually, we started getting KTMs because Japanese manufacturers stopped making two-strokes, and we still wanted to buy two-strokes. KTM, we applauded them for batting on with two-strokes.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant bikes. I've had a few 300XCs, 200XCs.
And the kiddies bikes as well, the 85s brilliant. And things. Yeah.
Could not fault them. So it's weird that somebody who's making good product is struggling as much. But that's why I'm not a captain of industry.
And if they completely go to the wall, then Bombardier are also rather keen on whatever happens to the pieces. I don't think Red Bull are as keen, but although Red Bull did take over a Formula One team to actually create their own brand in Formula One, so would they be remotely interested in doing the same again? Probably not. But there's some KTM's got to stay in existence somehow, in some shape or other. They've got about, even just off-road, they reckon that they've got more than 60 factory riders. Which is, it's going to put off a fair number of people who might put money in. More news from the MotoGP paddock is the possibility of the Baggers series that Harley Davidson run in over at Moto America with some good riders in it.
Yeah, well,
coming over to do half a dozen MotoGP rounds with about two races each one.
Races, 6 rounds, 2 rounds at a meeting. And this is just Harley Davidson. There is other manufacturers race the Baggers series in America. It's most notably Indian. It's a thing generally between Indian and Harley Davidson. I think this is just a deal between MotoGP and Harley. So logistically, I don't know how this is going to work, because it's not like you can go to your local Harley Davidson dealer, pick a bike out, put some race tires on, and go. These bikes are really specialist stuff. To make them fit for the racetrack, Christ, they are really, really trick motorbikes. Way trickier than, I've looked at them down at NEC a couple of years ago, than any BSB bike. Not saying faster, but to make something that is, 280 kilos or 300 kilos a bike into something you can actually safely put relatively safely, put it on a racetrack with a top rider on, there's a lot of work and a lot of expense therefore. So I don't know how this is going to work, whether they're going to ship the bikes in, because they don't exist anywhere else than in America where they've been running them. I know there's money in it. I know it's been really popular in States, which is why you've got your Jeremy Williams and your Loris Baz and all the rest of them, Brandon Pash, all jumping on it because it can make money. Why not? But the way how it's logistically going to work at MotoGP, I'm not so sure. I look forward to seeing it.
To be proven wrong.
No, it's been really successful and exciting racing.
No, but in terms of
Whether that's
transferring across the Atlantic.
Yeah, whether that's going to translate to something that's going to go down so well in Europe, I'm not so sure. But you look at times when they've tried to get other American real high profile, really popular sports, NASCAR, IndyCar, all that. They tried to get that to Europe. Remember, they built Lausitz Ring.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
we've commentated there.
Yeah.
Facility-wise, I don't think I've ever been to a bigger facility, but just in the middle of nowhere, it was like on wasteland, wasn't it?
Do you remember that? Do you remember that filthy, wet, misty, spray-filled day there when the sidecars turned off left too early and ended up wallowing around in a sodden midfield?
They were on the grass, some were on the banking, some had just stopped and got off. And they were,
yes, where's that left turn we're supposed to take? But that's the thing.
That happened because the actual short circuit within the oval was a real... Well, let's put a short circuit in there, but really hard.
But there was also that hole. It had been built in a quarry, and they'd lined they'd lined it with metal, hadn't they?
It was an open cast coal mine.
Right, in an open cast coal mine, and they'd lined the whole thing with metal, and it had nowhere to drain. So it just got more and more sodden when it got wet.
Well, what I do know is that they built these facilities at massive expense. In Rockingham, in UK, right near Corby. They didn't build them to build a Donington or a Brands or a Mallory. They did it to build an oval for American racing. It were going to take over the UK and Europe, and everybody they're going to get 200,000 like they do at in Indianapolis and all that.
But Europeans aren't interested.
It just didn't take off. So I don't know whether it was a sponsorship thing or a promotion thing or just people didn't want to go and watch it. I'm not sure.
Talking about America again, there's news from within that Ducati, in the motocross world, Ducati are seeking to sign Eli Tomac next year, one of the top American supercross and motocross stars. And the son of John Tomac, who was a fabled mountain biker.
John Tomac,
back in the day.
Yeah, cross-country mountain biker right in the early days,
Yeah. So
is that his son?
Yes, it's his son. And equally successful within American racing.
Yeah.
And over here when he's come over the Motocross of Nations and stuff like that. But Ducati are looking to sign him for next year. He won't come cheap. Meanwhile, over in Europe, the relentless weather in Portugal and Spain has been destroying motocross Grand Prix in Portugal and Spain. Wow. Like 10 degrees and just rain all the time. So they were proper mud fests.
It's been, I mean, Spanish has had a rough last couple of winters, really.
Yeah.
We were out there doing some work with Yamaha and they got the R9 launch was supposed to be at Jerez, completely rained off. And I mean, 18-inch of rain swashing through pit lane, impossible to run. And then they went to Almeria and of the 5 days it rained for 3.5 of them. So all these guys go test it. A lot of the BSB blocks that I chat to they ride the bikes all winter, the bicycles and some kind of stocker, do a lot of track days and testing out in Spain all winter just to keep themselves sharp and keep themselves training in good weather. And they've had horrendous weather also. We've had a reasonable winter and a great spring.
It's cracking the tarmac out here at Huddersfield International.
It is, yeah.
It's time for a segment coming up, James. It's Full-Throttle Fables.
Full-Throttle Fables.
You have arrived at your final destination.
Powered by Net Performance.
This is where we talk about not necessarily a full throttle story about our happy days on travelling sur le continent to World Superbike rounds, but we had been recommended. We'd tried getting to Magny-Cours for French rounds by flying to Paris. And it was always an unmitigated
Ball ache.
disaster. Well,
No,
not a
not disaster.
disaster.
Just
Just
hard work, wasn't it?
tedious because,
Getting out of Paris, flipping.
but
depending
also
what
getting back into Paris for either a Sunday night
Yeah.
flight or a Monday morning flight
Were
were
always awful.
equally hideous. And then suddenly, dear Roger Burnett just said out of the blue to me, "Oh, I always fly to Lyon." "Oh, really?" "Oh, so I said to you, shall we try Lyon then? Let's see how we go on there." So we did try Lyon, and it was extremely satisfying.
Yeah.
And off we pedalled in our usual, pick up the hire car, off we go, endlessly talking like a couple of blooming overexcited children, and time goes by, and then suddenly we see a signpost to Paris that tells us it's like 100k to Paris, and we're thinking, oh, hang on, we're going the wrong way. We should be over to the northwest somewhere, and we're heading directly north. So, but we had to stop at a service station
Buy a map.
and buy a map,
Yeah.
and pore over it and figure out how on earth we were going to get all the way across to the west.
For me, we had a lot of trips like that. That was specifically a trip where we changed the airport we flew into. But one of the lovely things when we were originally working together in Superbike was the first thing was it was me and you, no crew. We organised pretty much his own flights, his own hire cars, and
They were kind enough to do that for us.
yeah,
weren't
they were not every time they weren't.
Okay.
Not every single time. But we had some input in. We could say, right, well.
Oh,
we
yeah,
wanna
where
fly
we
over.
wanted to
So
to
what
go
I'm saying
to.
is,
Yeah.
we kind of steered his own boat a lot
Yes.
more than that
Yeah.
than we do now, and it was just me and you, and we had to get to the whatever circuit it was. We had to speak to somebody who may or may not know anything about what we were there for. A
Yes.
booth had been set up that may or may not have worked.
Yes.
There were lots of sort of mobile phone calls to poking around with little mixing desk
Oh,
things
mate,
we didn't
30 seconds before going on air,
Yeah,
sometimes
but-
things were.
So we did a lot of that. But I look back at that as I loved that.
Oh,
It
it
was
was
brilliant.
they were glorious trips.
That
But a
specific-
modicum of concentration was
That-
sometimes required to get us from A to B.
Yeah, but we only went wrong that trip because it was nice weather. We were in a lovely part of France. The scenery was spectacular. The roads were quiet. And we
Oh,
just-
that A road that
be on
we
it.
finally it was deserted,
Oh.
and there were beautiful that Citadel town that we passed by,
Yeah.
and so there were beautiful places.
I know, here's us pottering along, completely forgetting why we're in France.
But when we eventually turned left and headed west, and I remember the precise moment it turned 5:30, and you said to me, "If this is rush hour, I want to live here."
Yeah, brilliant.
There was no traffic on the road at all.
Conversely, though, Paris is always busy. I don't think I've ever been to Paris when it hasn't
No.
been worse than any capital city I've ever been to. But
That's right.
the rest
That's
of
right.
France just never seem to have much in it. To me, that was a lovely
And of
trip.
course, we had plenty of time. We weren't in any rush to get there. Yeah, it was a lovely cruise.
What I do know is I actually ended up buying this is going back 20 years. This
Yes, yeah,
and sat navs were just becoming a thing.
yeah.
And I bought a thing called a Tom Tom, if you remember
Yes.
them, right?
Which is why Charlie Hiscott christened me Jack Jack when I navigated us out of Monza one night.
And I remember I got this Tom Tom thing, and I've got the software for Europe because it was mainly in Europe we were going to. So I got the European software, and I could find. I'm loving this thing. I can find where we're going. You don't need your map, but you took this as a kind of personal attack on your map reading nous. And I remember you wouldn't have the Tom. No, no. And then you'd proceed to get handwritten. You'd obviously gone through it. at
Listen,
home.
dude, do you remember that beautiful
Italy.
map when we had to get from Malpensa to Monza, and we
Italy,
didn't want to use that choked up motorway again, so we went off on. I'd handwritten this very elaborate
You're brilliant.
map to get us to go kind of to the northwest of that and avoid Milan altogether. And it was I was very chuffed with that. It passes by a place called Serrano that's very, 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 very big in the production of those kind of sweet Italian biscuits. You know the ones I mean? No, I've forgotten
Where
what
we're
they're
going
called.
with this, Jack. To be honest with
but we
You've gone rogue again.
we managed to get there, despite the fact that, if you remember, Monza would appear on the road signs and then it would disappear again for a while, and we just kind of navigate
that impressed me
on.
so much because you set off with just a load of scribbles on a piece of.
Oh, it
a
wasn't
piece of
scribbles,
A4.
mate. It was very, very carefully articulated.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
But it looked like a load of scribbles to me initially.
Yeah.
So I'm self-driving, and every time I came to me, it felt like, because we were on some little roads and
Very
little
little
back
roads.
roads, and one turn after another, and
Yeah.
it didn't seem to be leading anywhere. And I thought you were doing one of them that is quite a common thing where you go, no, we're still all right, thinking we're not all right, but I'm hoping something's going to appear that, I can get back onto. And we flew through. It was brilliant, wasn't
Do
it?
you know, in truth, I learned that technique from the master, Colin Seeley, because he once told me that the way to get out of the back of Brands Hatch across Scratcher's Lane and going down this tiny single lane road, and he produced an immaculate hand-drawn diagram to show me how to do it. And that was the best route out of Brands Hatch I ever
still do
found
that
on
now.
a crowded Sunday night.
Yep. I tell you what, one of the other things, right, and this kind of got me a little bit, this, I've got to say, not many things you did actually just flipping.
What do you mean got you?
Uh,
Irritated you?
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought I'd
So
accidentally
get this,
irritated you
right,
quite
You'll
often.
remember this. You'll remember this. So it's when BSB were briefly at Croft for a few years.
Oh, now look,
Shush,
this is
you.
unfair.
You've had
This
your
is
turn.
unfair. This is grossly unfair, because I was going to see my mum in Billingham, and you were trying to go the other direction, and you wanted a lift.
You never leave a man down, Jack. You were never in the army, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Neither were I, to be honest. But so we're going. I remember I've gone up there, but I'd just got into flying. I was keen. I was trying to fly everywhere. It's quite impractical, this flying. They say if you've time to spare, you go by air, and it's pretty true.
But you went to Croft Autodrome.
I
didn't
got
you?
to Croft.
Yeah.
To do that, you've got to land in we can land at Croft if there's no meeting on, because they have a runway,
Right,
but they use
yes.
it for camping
Right.
on the big meetings.
So where did you
couldn't
have
land
to fly to?
there. Teesside.
Oh, okay.
Teesside Airport, right? So and it's Teesside Airport is what we called Middleton St George. It was
Yes,
a
yeah, I
satellite,
know it well.
It was a satellite airfield during World War II to Croft. It's
Yeah,
near.
it's
dead
Canadian.
near, right?
It
6
had
or
the
7 miles.
Canadian Air Force there.
Correct. So I've got my little aeroplane parked there, and I'm trying to get home on Sunday night. I've got my backpack with my kit on, right? I've walked out the circuit, and I'm at the circuit gate, and there's cars going every which way because the punters are trying to get home, and it was a big crowd. And I'm thinking, I'll be flipping. So I'm like this, and there's people going, "The fuck are you doing?" And driving straight out. Then you comes into view, and I thought, "Oh, brilliant! Jack will give me, he'll just nick me there." And Jack went, just.
No, I spoke to you. Spoke to me.
No, you didn't.
I thought we
didn't.
exchanged words.
You went straight past. And what got me is pretended you didn't see me.
No, this is not how I remember
Did you
this
give me a
incident.
lift to Teesside?
No, because
My case rests.
I was headed to Billingham, and I knew that Middleton St George was in an entirely different
Yeah, I know, I
direction.
get it. And actually,
And I wanted to get home and see my mum.
a bloke
I was due home for tea.
just behind you,
Yeah.
like 3 cars, stopped and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm trying to get a lift. Where are you going?" Teesside Airport. He goes, yeah, I can drop you there. Get in. He said, "Didn't you have an organiser?" He goes, "No, flipping Jack's just..."
No, you
flipping-
exactly didn't have it. Never had the sense to have it organised. You'd never
How are you
asked
gonna
me about
organise
it. You'd never asked. You'd never said to me, "Oh, I'll need a lift to
What would
Middleton
your
St
answer
George
have
today."
been?
Well, I might have been more inclined to give you the lift then, because I knew that it was in order, that it was going to happen.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I see my mistake. Anyway,
Moving quickly on. World Superbikes.
Yep.
Cremona. Visited Cremona.
Yeah.
And well, Bulliger kind of demolished everybody again, really, didn't he? And it could be, Toprak's talked about the fact that he can get the BMW to work pretty well for about 10 laps, and then then things start to go a bit AWOL then, and he finds things a bit harder.
Yeah, and that's one or two things. That's either fuel load, or which I can't see him not being able to sort that out within a meeting or two, or tyres.
Yes.
Some bikes and some riders cope better with one tyres and or otherwise. So
he seems to cope extremely well with everything, doesn't he? Bless him.
Yeah, I don't.
Except Bulliger at the moment.
He's not coping so well with understanding that he's probably the most talented and best rider in the championship, like we all think. No disrespect to Nicola Bulliger,
but on different machinery.
Yeah, and I think he's struggling with that a bit. He's had one or two snaps, hasn't he, of late on that subject, and he never has before. It's obviously getting to him a little bit, I think. Notwithstanding the fact that Toprak hasn't ridden there before, but at that level, it don't make a lot of difference anyway. They learn circuits quick. I still think I thought he would have had a better. I thought he'd have won there. I did.
Did you?
So, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Well, hasn't he got quite a good record at Moss that's upcoming
Absolutely,
this weekend?
Moss. I mean, if you've never been to Moss, brilliant circuit, really nice part of the world.
We've had it on the World Endurance calendar at one stage.
I've been out there.
No.
Good place. Really good place. We've been out 3 or 4 times. Great track. Real old school. Fast impact. Long and thin.
Yeah, I know.
Just dead fast.
That's what makes it such an unusual shape.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's quite popular with I've never ridden it, but I think it's really good to ride. The all centre. And Toprak's been unbelievable there.
So do you think Toprak's going to be the man? Could be the man to beat when they go to Moss?
He's got to be.
Yeah.
If to keep his championship going.
Yeah.
Buller's extended his lead even more. Doesn't look like dropping the ball to me. The bike looks mega. Whatever else you think, you can't knock Ducati. What a flipping job they do, engineering wise.
Yes.
Just brilliant. They do things a little bit different at times, but it works. It's like they've got a better interpretation of what they read a set of rules and go, oh, yeah. They're just good engineers.
Yeah.
Just good bike. And in Bulliger, they've got a good man, haven't they? I think it's first time for a long time we've had every single race, exactly the same first 3 home. So Bulliger, Toprak, and Bautista. So, yeah, disappointing for me, I must admit. I thought if Toprak can get in there and flipping get about Bulliger somehow, then you've still got a tight championship, and it's not going to take many more of these races to think, ugh, it's kind of slipping. And you don't want to see a really good rider on what you would see as not the best bike winning, because you just like to see that sort of battle against adversity. But actually, what you don't want to see is who you consider to be the best rider in the championship talent-wise not winning somehow. And we all know how good Toprak is, but you can't take anything away from Bulliger.
He pulls some fascinating moves at times, doesn't he, Toprak? And when I think back to, it makes me realise that, how can I put this? I look back and now realise I was rather unkind in my view of Keenan Softwoglu when he was first around in World Supersport and started winning, because he was the one who kind of first introduced those tactics in a way, colliding with people and really giving them no room at all. And I used to feel that he took it over the top, really. And I look back now and I think, do you know what? Toprak, he was just leading the way in that kind of riding. And
Well, am I right in thinking we first saw Kenan Softoglu in Stock Thou, European Stock Thou, because he fought for a championship.
He lost the championship at the last corner at Magny Court to Didier Van Kemulen.
He did.
quite a number
Yeah.
of years ago.
Right, so
And
that's the first time we saw him.
That was the only time we ever saw him lose a championship, in effect.
And I remember chatting with him at that point, and he was
he sounded
squeaky
like
voice,
this.
but he actually said, "I didn't come to make friends.
Did
I
it?
didn't come to make friends."
Do you know? I wish I'd chatted to him then and found out that was
he
his
actually
attitude.
said that people have put that much effort into getting him out of a country that has no background in racing at that level.
Yes.
You know, and firstly into German, don't come from money, didn't have a rich dad. They got him into German Championship, which is where he sort of cut his teeth.
Yes.
In IDM, and then into World on stock bikes. And he said, a lot of people have put a lot of effort and spent money they don't even have to get me in, and they ain't giving up. I ain't come to make friends. I've come to be successful.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, I think you can understand how he was.
Yeah.
And certainly you can take nothing away from his commitment and sort of dedication and bravery, really. Whether it's going to make him any friends on track or not, he didn't care about anyway. I think Toprak's a little bit different. Toprak is a lot softer as a person, you know, to sort of speak to, not as edgy, as not quite as kind of scary.
Well, Supersport then, Sofoglu held the record for consecutive podiums back at a time, remember, when they only had one race per weekend. So consecutive podiums across 15 races would have been a season and a third, really.
Yeah.
But Manzi obviously had the opportunity to do it rather quicker, and he's cracked on and produced 16 podiums in succession.
17.
Oh, I beg your pardon. 17.
Sofoglu
was 16.
Yeah. It's uncomparable, really, when Superbikes have got 3 races in a weekend when they used to have 2. Supersport has 2 when they used to have 1.
Yes.
My day it was just 1.
Yeah, and everything hinged on that one race. That's where stats can often irritate me.
Mislead, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure Mr. Fogarty would agree.
Talking of which, do you like my T-shirt?
Oh, yeah, I like that, yeah. It actually, for one of Carl's, that's...
I think this is a
quite
really
nice and
sweet
retro.
design. He sold it me at the Stafford Classic Show last October for a tenner.
He's got a garage full.
Because he doesn't... He obviously doesn't rate this as being as good a T-shirt as his Fogarty Eyes one, and I prefer this. I think it's a nice, almost retro design.
I think most people would, yeah.
Except Carl.
Maybe not Carl. I know a few of them left.
But what were we talking about? Manzi. Back to Manzi. Yes, he looks like he's the hot ticket, isn't he, in World Supersport
Yeah, brilliant.
at the moment?
Great rider, yeah. The question mark for me would have been now quick, because he swapped from R6 last year
To the R9.
that was winning on
Yeah.
to the R9, completely different bike, different engine, 3-cylinder, not a 4-cylinder, obviously bigger CCs, leveled in terms of performance individually, like all this new super sport classes, because they're all different configuration CCs. You've got 765s, you've got 800 triples, you've got 900 triples, you've got 600 fours and 955 twins. It's a difficult thing for the organisers to get right in terms of parity of machine.
And do you think they've got it right?
It's looking like it. I thought it might take Yamaha a little bit of time to give Manzi the bike that he was going to be capable of doing that on in this class, and not so. He's loving it. Bike looks brilliant. Really pleased for Tombo with Amos having a brilliant season on the Triumph.
Yeah.
2 seconds again at Cremona. Bloke's a good rider, you know. Really good rider. I've always got on really well with Tom. We trials rode with him a little bit, and he's one of them.
How is he at trials?
He's all right. He's done a lot of enduro. He's done a lot of enduro. He's quite a good trick rider. Ben Snyder is just faded a little bit. Didn't have the best meeting at Cremona. And then there's a rookie, but he's not really a rookie. Rookie in Super Sport. Joan, and I apologise if I get the pronunciation wrong. Joan Masai, Spanish fella, Moto2 he's come from.
Right.
And this is another example of riders coming into World Supersport and World Superbike now into that paddock. They ain't coming from national championships. You know, they're not coming. I mean, Taz McKenzie's still in there. Brad Ray's back in BSB, because the people who are making it work, people from MotoGP. There's so many good people in MotoGP now. The system to get them in there is so efficient there's people with a load of talent who haven't got rides, and at an age when they can excel in the
Yes.
Superbike products.
I was amazed, talking of Brad Ray, I was amazed to find he's going to turn 28 next. Blimey,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem 5 minutes
How
since he
fast
was
does that go?
since that kid was
Yeah.
like arriving at the gates of Brands Hatch at midnight, having ridden in the CEV Spanish Championship somewhere and travelled back.
Little
and-
bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, on I say little bikes because I can't remember them when it were just still 1252 strokes or they'd just gone 4-stroke. I think 1252
I'm 1252 strokes.
I think 1252
Yeah.
stroke, yeah. Look
Which-
like Milky Bar Kid.
Yeah, and makes you realise he's been around a fair while, hasn't he?
He
What a
looked
performer.
like he couldn't even see his motorbike, never mind ride it as well as he did, but he was always quick, wasn't he? And what a nice fella.
Yeah.
What a good
Lovely-
bloke.
lovely lad.
I spent a bit of time with him over the years. Nice fella. Would Brad Ray have had the talent to give him the time and the machine and the team?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Blimey, do you remember the way he performed at somewhere like Suzuka when he was
Yeah,
stuck on a Suzuki over there? Wow.
But that's the point. And it's the same in MotoGP. If you don't, the problem is now, if you don't start doing the business pretty quick, there's
Yes.
somebody else.
Yes.
There's like a little production line, a little conveyor belt, just pops off another little Italian or Spanish rider, fully
Yeah.
formed, ready to go.
Yeah.
Been riding for 15 years, and even though they're only 12,
Yeah.
one of them jobs. And it just moves, which is why you've got these Agata, Manzi, Booliger, Masai. That's why they're all ended up in. There's loads of them. They're ended up in the World Superbike paddock, and that's doing people like Brad Ray. It means they're not going to get a chance over
Yes.
years.
Yeah. But you always said, I remember when we were doing BSB, you always said how much you admired the guys who would take a stab at getting themselves on the international stage and actually move out of that comfort zone within
Yeah.
the BSB paddock.
Yeah, I meant people like Cal Crutchlow, Chaz Davis, Jonathan Ray, who all went and instead they've been riding Superbikes, but they couldn't get the job they wanted at World Superbike, wanted to much, so they went Super Sport
They
racing.
stepped through Super Sport,
They went,
yes.
they stepped on
Yeah.
down and sideways a little bit to go forward.
Yes.
It worked for every one of them. So whether it still would, probably not.
Talking about BSB and Brad Ray, it's time for Revs Roulette.
Oh, aye.
Revs Roulette, powered by Net Performance.
Well, we've got to identify
The circuit
British
from
Superbike
audio
circuit from
of a
just
bike
from.
rider. Yeah. Remember,
I found this hard.
I
because
think
it-
it is hard. What?
It seems such a, we got Snetterton last time, but I would have expected to be a lot further from the start to the first turn than it sounded like in that.
Nice, long way. That will. I was going to say, always work out before the horn goes to signify when the bike goes over the start and finish.
Okay.
Live.
Oh,
That's the
blimey.
horn.
Christ. yes.
That, right? Listen to the bike coming out the last corner and accelerating and see what gear he's in and what you think, how quick you
Okay,
think he's going
well,
and how far it is from the last corner to the horn. And then again, good key that's one of the reasons we got Snetterton last time. Snetterton
Yes.
300.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So it's in your hands.
Here we go. Right, out the last. Straight. Start and finish line. He's close to turn one. In the corner. Quite slow. Probably second gear that. Now accelerating. Not too much though. This is all. What a corner there. Fairly high gear though. That's third or fourth gear. Well, it's not knock hill.
It's already going on too long for long.
Yeah.
too long for Silverstone as
Not
well.
Cadwell either. Slow. Right.
And that was Sutton.
Short start and finish straight. He's got a really short start and finish straight. Who's got a lot? So that slow corner straight into turn one.
Yes.
Right? So it's definitely not Snare. We had that last time. Not Brands Arch. Lots of slow stuff there, you know. Let's have a look. So, Knockhill's not Knockhill.
No, it's too long.
It's not Snetterton.
Could it be Oulton? Not Oulton.
I'm thinking that, you know.
I can't help you here.
Oulton Park. You out of Lodge Corner. But then there didn't seem to be anywhere where it kind of opened up out of Cascades, did there?
No. And
I think Oulton. If I were guessing, I'd say Oulton.
okay, let's go with that.
Yeah. Is it Oulton? Oh, no.
Oh, it's not.
Oh,
Well, we'll have more chance next time.
it's not one. Where is it? Truxton. Didn't seem high speed enough, did it?
No, it didn't. And yet I suppose it was a certain element of constant enough,
think
if not high speed enough.
One thing we're not getting, and we should have done, is the fact that them things are so powerful, even at an high speed circuit, they don't even feel like they're working that hard. You know,
No.
it's not like a 125 or a 250. They would have been yeah.
And that
You
was
know-
a Yamaha.
Yeah, that was a Yamaha Superbike. So
Yeah.
with that much power, 200 horsepower, you're
Yeah.
doing 170 mile an hour, but actually not sounding like the engine's
Yes, at
working
all.
that hard. Yeah.
Off the back of our brilliant identification of Thruxton, let's go on to just a quick glance back at BSB.
Yeah. Oulton Park.
Oulton Park was a tough weekend,
Really tough weekend for the whole paddock.
but
However,
but there were a couple of good
Yeah.
Superbike races.
there
Good
were,
Superbike
yeah,
races.
there was.
Brad
Not
Ray.
surprising, really. No surprise in the fact that Brad Ray cleared off in the first feature race. He'd looked like doing that. One of my question marks for Brad coming back to BSB were, bear in mind, he's only been 2 years in World Superbike. Those that have done quite a bit of time in World Superbike, including myself, would not look forward that much to coming back and scratching around Oulton and Cadwell. And
Yes.
so he got his head around that pretty well.
Very
He was
quickly.
quickest pretty much all weekend and the test the week before. So he did what people thought he might be able to do in race one. Mentioning dispatches for Glenn Irwin, who ended up going off the 5th row of the grid and ended up coming through to second, which was ride of the weekend for me. Really good ride. Normally, it'll take you all weekend of 3 races to get anything like the grid position that'll allow you just to nick something out of the meeting on the last race on Sunday, but in this case Monday. But that was a great ride. Also, Leon Haslam looking
Brilliant.
looking like he's really clicked with that Motor Torpedo
Yeah.
Ducati, and also clicked with the fact that he's fully fit, first time in about 5 years that he hasn't carried an injury into a season, which meant he hasn't trained as hard last 4 or 5 years. This year, fully fit, trials riding again, having a good time on bikes again, not doing the whole player, manager, running the team, driving the truck, putting the stickers on, mixing the fuel, none of that. And he's really getting on well with it, and he's looking a different man, even at 41. I think 40, just gone 42 this week, I think. So look, brilliant.
You know, I always take your age estimations
With a pinch of salt.
With a pinch of salt.
I
yes.
will stand by this one. And then in the second, the shorter Superbike
Well,
race,
Owen was impressive again in that one,
really impressive.
especially when he didn't make any fuss of the fact afterwards. He said, "I don't want to make any excuses, but I hadn't got a back brake after, early on."
It doesn't
And,
want to make any excuses except for this excuse.
Yes,
Yeah.
But he didn't make a
we'll
big
do
fuss
that.
of the
No,
excuse.
he didn't.
And I know that some people,
Yeah.
like your dear self, never used to use a back brake, but he obviously said
They
it
use
was
more back brake now.
it was quite a big loss. But,
Yeah,
but to perform like that when you hadn't got the back brake was
The reason
quite
it's
impressive.
a big loss, Jack, is because they now use the back brake not for stopping the bike into the corners. If you
No, stopping it out of the corners.
the hard braking point into any corner, if you're using the front brake properly, there's no weight on the rear, so you wouldn't get any braking effect from putting the rear brake on it. Just lock up. What they do use it for is once they have to come off the front brake as the bike's turning, that puts more weight on the back, more lean angle, but then they can start to get a bit of effectiveness out of the rear brake. But especially why it's a bit of an hindrance not having a rear brake at Oulton Park these days is loads of places the bike wants to win 3 or 4 points on the track, including out of these leap onto the start and finish, including coming over Hilltop, including coming over into Druids over Clay Hill, where they're hitting that back brake the whole time, whether they're using the right foot for the back brake still in traditional manner, or they're using a thumb brake or a scooter type brake. Stop wheelies. And also sometimes turning into a corner, they'll dab the back brake to tighten the line a little bit.
Which makes his move on
Even
the
more
last
impressive.
turn even more impressive, really.
Yeah, really good. But really, really pleased for Leon Haslam. Just brilliant. Really, really good. Him winning that and just cracking. He still wants to do it. He's still as keen as ever. His dad was at that age. His dad never wanted to stop racing. So really pleased for Leon.
Do you think he can sustain it? I mean, Donington Park next. I mean, he loves that place.
Likes a bike. Not only that, I think there's something else that kind of went a little bit unsaid. They're on a new tyre. It's supposedly somewhere between the old X and the Zero. So everybody has to run it. I think it's going to be run everywhere. It might not be run at Thruxton because they have a lot of tyre issues. It might be everybody got to use a different tyre at Thruxton just to make them last long enough. But it would appear that this new tyre's giving more grip. Whether it gives a longevity, we've yet to see at some of the other circuits that are hard on tyres, including Donington actually. But it's certainly giving more grip, and I think it's helped the Ducatis a little bit. Maybe the BMs, maybe. We saw Storm Stacey on the Bathams BMW.
Yes.
Really impressive. I mean, really impressive. He's been telling us that he can do this now for a few years, and we didn't believe him. Now we're having to believe him. He had a couple of really good rides in dodgy conditions last year. Clearly, the kid's got talent. Not short of confidence at all. Real nice character. Not nice, odd character, but in a funny, nice way. Where's his topper? He's importing these top hats,
He's importing them.
He's importing them from. I don't know where. I don't know where they'd make cheap top hats. I don't know. I mean, I guess a real one, if you bought one that's made in flipping London or wherever the proper ones are made.
The impressive thing is it makes him about 6'6", doesn't it? When
big lad anyway.
Yeah.
Tall lad, but he uses a lot of back brake. Did you saw him dropping into some of them corners and the back's really flipping sliding going in off the gas.
Yes.
And they can have strategies in terms of engine management, in terms of going into the corners where you shut the throttle and the throttle doesn't actually shut fully because you want that trail going in, or the opposite. So there is strategies for corner entry based on the electronics, but actually you were doing that at the back brake and it was really quite impressive. So who knows? He's certainly making that Bathers bike going. Michael Rutter. We all know and love Michael Rutter. But he's not the happiest man in the paddock at all times, is he? Do you know what I mean? He's a little bit sort of downbeat brummy, isn't he?
There is a doleful,
although very funny,
doleful quality, but he's
sarcastic.
very, very, very funny.
However, I've never seen the man grinning as much. It's just brilliant. Because his man's going quite well. And obviously not going to make it the quickest bike, but certainly the nicest looking bike is that Bathams bike. Looks beautiful.
It
so
does.
different and nice.
Max Cook was impressive for
Max
a couple
Cook,
of
really
laps.
impressive, albeit briefly.
Yeah.
Max has trained harder than ever. I see Max quite a bit. Max trains harder. He says, I've trained harder than ever. He looks super fit and strong. He's coming of age. He's still only early 20s. But he said, I've decided I'm going to have a go. It's my 3rd season. in BSB, and I've got to
Is it
start
already
pushing
his third season? Wow.
on. And I've got to start pushing on. And good on him. He's decided to get pushed on. Unluckily, he didn't do much running at the front, but he did a little bit of running at the front, which were brilliant. He made a start.
Ironically, it was him and Christian Iden who dropped their bikes in that first race.
Yeah,
the
Max
two
first.
Kawasaki's together.
Yeah, Max dropped it in a really hot place. He's a little bit offline, going under somebody going into Shell Oil's hairpin. It's really cambered, really banked, and really difficult to do what he did. But he's a little bit offline, and a couple of things. It was being a bit optimistic. He'd gone under somebody. He was a little bit offline on the inside, but also bike's heavy. Really early in the race, 23 or 4 litres of fuel, and you've got to kind of allow for that, and that just pushed the front a bit much. But I saw him the day after. I saw him at Anglesey. He was on one of my track days instructing for me. Great instructor for his age, all dead on young shoulders. And he said, I know what I did, and I was quite happy to run at the front, and I'd probably have another go at doing it again. You know, he said he wasn't that disappointed because he had the pace. So we'll see.
It's obviously going to be tough at the next round of British Superbikes, but we need perhaps to just take a look at what we might expect from Donington Park, which is coming up imminently.
Yep, Durham
Round two.
BSB is going up this weekend. It's going to be, it'd be quite a difficult meeting for the paddock. First time everybody's got together or been together since Oulton Park. Be difficult for some people, especially super sport class. It's normally given really good racing, as done it in BSB. It's on the GP circuit, but they've kind of toyed with running. If they run 2 Doningtons in a year, they have in the past run one on they call it the national, but the shorter circuit, and one on the GP. Me, I prefer the GP circuit anyway. Some don't. Some actually like the more flowing kind of aspect of the national. I always like the GP circuit. I was always reasonable on the brakes. I always thought I could actually make time up on the brakes on other people. And you got 2 more opportunities to do that into Melbourne and then into Goddard's.
I just used to miss the sheer spectacle of a Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah. There's always action packed, isn't it?
Yes.
What we're going to expect from the Superbike class, a lot of people will be quite looking forward to it. We've got Glenn Irwin, dominated in the past. Kyle Ryde, satisfied but not overjoyed with his performance at Oulton. Thought he was capable of better to get his 25 season off. He thought would be a better start. So he'll be keen to make amends. And in the past has been dominant in terms of speed there, as Kyle. Brad Ray tested well there, gone well there before. You can't see any reason why he wouldn't be right at the front. Leon Haslam. How you're not going to include Leon Haslam into any top 5 or 6 picks for Donington? He lives just up the road. I know that doesn't cut any ice at this level. Everybody's got enough time round there. But certainly seems to go well there, and he's going well with that new bike. Be really interested to see how Storm Stacey, Max Cook, some of the younger ones go on. Interestingly, we have a returning...
Tom Sykes.
The opposite of the youngsters.
Yes.
We've got
the former World Superbike champion.
Yep, former World Superbike champion.
2013 was that? Wow.
Yeah.
A while back.
He's back riding Luis Rollo's Ian Newton Aprilia V4. First time he's ridden an Aprilia. He's ridden a V4 before because he's ridden the Ducati. I would have said if it could go well anywhere. Remember in his season, he's kind of lacklustre overall. He wouldn't mind me saying that, I don't think. Season in BSB on the PBM bike, he excelled and won at Donington. Always gone well there. I think he'll be quite fancying it. I think the bike is, I think, a good bike. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Whether it's good enough or he's going to be good enough to win remains to be seen, but I think they'll be somewhere near. Danny Kent, really looking forward to it. He feels like he could have got the season off to a better start. Never been a massive fan of Oulton. Personally, hasn't Danny. He told me that. He's really looking forward to Donington and getting to a circuit where he thinks he can win. And he definitely had the pace in terms of lap speed last year, was as quick as anybody.
Yes. Tends
not to get off a start. Typical MotoGP man. Steady at a start, and then by the time he gets his eye in, everybody's gone. and he's got a bit of catching up to do. So also needs to get his elbows out a little bit first lap and secure himself be a bit more aggressive and secure himself a bit better starting position to get
Yes.
going into the race sort of thing. We haven't even mentioned Tommy Bridewell, right? Champion a couple of years ago, who goes well at Donington. He's had mixed at Donington, but he likes Donington. Christian Idden having a really good run there last year before he pinged himself off coming out of the old airpin and hurt himself. Charlie Nesbitt going really well. Max Cook, he'll be looking to pick up where he left off at Oulton Park. Rory Skinner, he's got to get his season going again.
Do you remember his save in the Supersport race coming out of the old hairpin?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
That he made absolutely
Nothing of
at all.
Nothing of. He's like that. Lovely
Yeah.
bloke. And then John McPhee, another Scot. If he's going to go well anywhere, he'll be Donington. So he'll be looking at pushing certainly into the top 10, I would have thought. So yeah, you can't call it. It's his BSB. You know, he has to pick a winner. It's impossible.
So now we move on to our quiz.
Jack Track Trivia, powered by Net Performance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Jack Burnicle.
Isle of Man TT edition.
I've done my homework.
I bet you. I bet
I'm just
there's
about
a
to be
question.
found
If this was mine, I'd probably have in a little question about who was the first man to win a world championship and a TT for MV Augusta.
Cecil Sandiford.
You knew.
Clearly.
Except
Tell you, I've done my homework.
his name was Cecil Sandford. He was a very lovely English chap. Well, he won the
Friend
125.
of the famous Cecil Sandiford. No, I didn't know that, by the way.
He won 125 World Championship and the 125 TT on the MV Augusta in 1952. However, question one here is nothing to do with that at all. In view of the fact that you're about to abscond to the island for over a fortnight, we thought we'd
Test
you. What is the full length of the Isle of Man TT mountain course?
37 3/4.
Very good. 37.73. So very, very
Yeah, but I did a couple of...
Okay.
I was pissed.
Okay.
Right? So I did a bit longer.
Who holds the current outlap record for the TT?
Peter Hickman.
At
1:36.28.
Oh, very good. 0.358. Very close.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Question 3. In what year was the first Isle of Man TT race held?
On the mountain course or on any course? Because it started off on
any course.
On any course, 07.
Very good.
Yeah.
1907, that would be.
1907, yes, and it was on what's called the St John's course. Used some of the normal... You came at Ballacrane from the other way and turned left instead of right, and then followed what is now still the course until you got to Douglas Bend going into Kirkmichael, and you turned left on at the course road off what is now the course onto the rest of the Clips course.
Very impressive.
Good. Yes.
Very impressive, young man. Question 4. How many TT wins did the late, great Joey Dunlop achieve in total?
26.
Correct. Question 5. The iconic pub Cregney Bar is located on the mountain road section of the course. What does the name translate into? This is interesting because I never knew this, and it'll probably be quite handy for you to know as well, although it makes no sense to me.
Do you know what? It translates into, I'm taking a complete stab, that's my sheep.
And oddly enough, you're kind of not far off. It's a Rock of the Cows.
Rock of the Cows.
Why? I don't know why cows should bar, but there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Question 6. Which manufacturer has won the most TT races overall? Actually, the answer to this is more obvious than I thought, I have to say.
Got to be Honda.
Yeah, it is.
Used to be Yamaha for a long time until the mid-'80s, because Yamaha, big classes, not as many Yamaha, but because Yamaha ran 250s, 350s and won everything.
Yes.
For a lot of years, it was always Yamaha. Before that, Norton, actually. But
Michael Dunlop, of whom we have mentioned previously, was the youngest rider ever to win a TT race. I didn't know that. How old was he?
It was, I'm sure it was 09. It was a super sport race, and I think he was, I'm going to say 20.
Yes. That's
I was stood
Oh.
there watching it. Sketchy conditions. And if you needed to know what a pair of nuts looks like, he had them that day. Flipping heck. He set off. Not a lot of the others didn't. And I mean people like Hutchie and John McGuinness. And fair play to them. You make your own decisions on what you think is acceptable in terms of risk. And typical at that time, Michael, and probably still would be, it's sketchy, wet, we'd have raced in the wet anyway, but they don't, bear in mind, you can't run wets anymore because of the high speeds, and he just set off, just visor down, off he went, and just cleared off. Yeah, good win.
I think that's brilliant that you could answer all three segments of that so accurately. Question 8. Who was the first rider to lap the... Oh, even I know this. Who was the first rider to lap the TT course at over 130 miles per hour?
John McGuinness. And it was 07, I think it was.
Very
I think
good.
it was 100th anniversary.
Yeah, very good. Question 9. Yeah, that's good, wasn't it? It was 100th anniversary. I didn't realise that. What was the name of the first woman to compete in a TT race for solo motorcycles in 1962?
I know.
I've never heard of this lady.
No, I won't. I'm not going to get it. Not going to get it.
She was called Beryl Swain.
Yeah.
Question 10. What is the name of the highest point on the TT course? And for a bonus point, how many feet/meters is it above sea level?
I reckon I think it's either Halewood's Height now, or they've changed the name. I think it's Brandywell.
Very good. Have you any idea of the elevation?
Not as high as you think. I reckon that's going to be about...
It's higher than Rosebery Topping on the North Yorks Moors, which is the significant profile on the North Yorks Moors.
2,000 feet.
No. Not that high. It's surprisingly low, I guess. 1,385 feet, 422 metres above sea level. Yeah. Well done, James. I didn't. You got some pretty good scores there, mate. So, James.
Yep.
I'd like to get your thoughts on the upcoming TT, because you'll be heading that way in a very few days' time. So, What do you reckon? What do you reckon is going to happen?
What I hope is going to happen is we get the same weather we've had certainly up north for quite a long time now. That'd be brilliant. Last year, a little bit changeable. I actually don't think it was that bad last year. I think we were coming off a really good year the year before, and I think people thought last year were bad. It wasn't. It was changeable, but they got most of the races out of the way. And in fact, Senior went off on the normal day, last Saturday of the 2 weeks. So I hope we get good weather, because that's the meeting that can be really mucked about with weather.
Yes.
As long as we get good weather, I'll be quite happy. What I think is going to happen in terms of the racing, the big three, Dean Harrison, Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop, have now become the big four in terms of speed, because now they've been joined by David Todd. Won the Senior last year, got his first TT win and his first Senior TT win same week. So he's really come of age. I'm looking at his form. The only thing you can really go off in terms of what TT form is going to be is what happened at the Northwest. And they are very different circuits, although both public roads.
Yes.
They're very different in their sort of nature. If that is any guide, I think they are still going to be the big four. I think it's really interesting, because going into it on really good form, although not done much short circuit stuff, as we've said, is Michael Dunlop. I think Michael's got two really good bikes. He's on what is essentially a factory BMW in the big races. It looked really quick and really good and quite stable in the Northwest, and it's really high speed at times in the Northwest. And the BMs look really good. The 810 BMs of Todd and Hickman look really good. So Michael Dunlop's going in there on a little bit of form from the Northwest, really confident with what he now knows after the Northwest are really good bikes. Not only has he got a factory spec BMW that he seems to get on with really well, although saying that, he can ride most things. He's ridden a lot of things and done well on all. But he's also got an Aruba World Championship spec V2 Super Sport bike, Ducati. And that looked spectacularly good at the Northwest. Stable. He looked to enjoy riding it, and it looked quick. So he's going to be the man to beat in all those classes. I don't think he's been beaten in a super sport race for quite a long time now at the TT. I don't know the full stats, but he's exceptionally good in the super sport class, and well, he's exceptionally good in every class. So he's going to be one of them meant to beat. Hickey comes off what for most people will be the highlight of a career last year, but to him was quite lacklustre in terms of his performance in TT24. He was very disappointed, although, like I said, it would have been the pinnacle of some people's racing career.
Yes.
He's really keen to make amends, and compared to last year, for whatever reason, he looks fitter, stronger, bang up for it, and on bikes that, albeit last minute, they've got them together, they look really good, and they've got factory help.
A lot of support from BMW.
A lot of support from BMW. David Todd, slightly different, coming in from slightly different angle. He had a cracking TT and really came of age at the TT last year. He looked brilliant. Wherever you watched, which you can't watch everybody all the time at the TT, you can get snapshots. Everywhere I saw him last year, David looked brilliant. So he's looking for a good TT. Dino goes in as Honda's big hope. The bike looks quick. It looks slightly unstable at the beginning on the longer straights at the beginning of the week at the Northwest. However, I've got a little bit of a theory here. I know I'm going off subject a little bit. The BMs have huge wings, huge. Like
Yes.
the bike's this wide at the front.
Yes.
Big wing area to the maximum they're allowed, actually. But when you get wings creating downforce, you get two things. You get drag, but also you get vortices off the wings. That's why you see these white sort of circles coming out at the end of some sometimes jet airliners
Yes.
and all in certain weather conditions. Because you get basically air bleeds from high pressure underneath the wing to low pressure on top, and then mixes at the end, and you get these quite big vortices. They can be quite dangerous for little aircraft. If you're taking off or landing directly behind a big aircraft, you've got to leave a lot of distance to let it dissipate. And I think a lot of the reason that Dean's bike looked a little bit unstable at the Northwest is he's trying to overtake a BM. It looked perfect till he got level with the BMs, and then I'm sure there's some kind of air nonsense coming out of the wings. So that's my theory anyway, so we'll see. But Dino's keen. Dino's just brilliant. Attitude's fantastic. Laid back towards it all, but super keen, really fit. He's one of them wiry kind of, just born into the wrong time. He'd have made a good Victorian coal miner, would Dino, because he just he just gets on with the job, don't complain. He's.
I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to say he'd have made a great pre-war TT contestant.
He would, exactly that.
Yeah.
He would have done well at anything in the past, because he's plain speaking, says it how it is, gets on with the job, don't
Resiliently
complain
cheerful.
and very cheerful. John McGuinness definitely got to be in there. Everybody keeps saying, why are they still giving John a bike? Because he helps everybody else in the team. He's a great ambassador for Honda. And who are you going to put on it? Who's going to beat him? Yes, he isn't going to go and beat Hickey or Dean or Davey or Michael, but certainly nobody else that you can put on it is going to beat him. So, it's going to be an interesting TT. Like I said, it is the meeting that can be completely written off by weather. So we're hoping we get good weather. And if the crowds at the Northwest are anything to go by, I think if we do get the weather, we're going to get massive crowds at the TT.
Excellent. Now then, it's Q&A time.
Preza Q&A, powered by Nets Performance.
So it's Q&A time.
So this is
James. Questions for you to contemplate and perhaps even come up with answers towards, which you've received from our dear listeners.
Yes, okay.
Some of them perhaps a little long-winded, but they, we'll try.
This is Jack used to be well known for this. The backhanded compliment from flipping.
Sorry, can I rephrase that?
Or is it cackhanded? I don't actually know which way that should be, but anyway.
I'll try. I'll praise one or two of
Go on
these,
then.
shall I say? Is that the best way to put it? Mike Day asks, he more or less tells us really, the GOAT, usually synonymous with Rossi in MotoGP, BSB, World Superbikes have seen many great champions. The TT a bit more subjective.
Yep.
McGuinness, Dunlop, Hickman, Dean Harrison. And who can ever forget Hutchie's 5 wins? The question, strangely, is will Tony Bow ever be surpassed? Is he the true greatest of all time? The fact that he's in trials, even though he's now won about 36 world titles indoor and out.
34 indoor and out, is it? But you might be right, I don't know.
Do you know?
I've seen some of them.
It might be 34. It might be 34.
Yeah,
but he has been undefeated indoors and out for years.
Do you know the problem with that is, right? And this is how a lot of people in trials or with an interest in trials felt. He spoilt it a little bit. Although going to watch an indoor for all those years or even an outdoor was, but especially the indoor because it is an arena kind of setup. Going and watching an indoor that included Tony Bow, yes, you wanted to see what he could do, and it was almost like a Tony Bow demonstration. The problem the organisers had, to make it challenging for Tony Bow, they made it impossible for anybody else.
Yes,
and
correct.
You got that completely. So, in a way, he didn't, what people want to see with any sport is a big rivalry. You don't want to see, Mike Tyson getting in with somebody who's never put boxing gloves on and just getting knocked out. Yeah, that's not a contest. Yeah. So
that 4-stroke Honda Montesa is just the best motorbike underneath him all the way. Rubbish.
It's a 4-stroke. I think he did it despite having that.
Oh, I think he did it in to a large degree because of that as well.
Anyway, I like my 2 strokes.
Well, there you are. You like
and
your
they've
2
all
strokes.
gone back. And what have they all done? They all started making 4 strokes. And they've all gone back to 2 strokes now with trials in.
Except the Honda Montesa.
Yeah, exactly. And Honda, we now married Honda out to the 4-stroke. They tried long enough at GP, didn't they? To
Indeed.
Some of the most technically advanced bikes in the world were Honda's attempt to beat the 2 strokes with the 4-stroke.
Yes.
Anyway.
With spectacular failures. Now then.
Answer the question, is he the greatest of all time? So far, you don't know what's going to happen, do you?
In the trials world.
Yeah.
Stephen Proctor has given us a very brief one, but a very testing one, James. In your opinions, it's very nice of you to put it plurally, Stephen. In your opinions, who are the best 10 riders to have raced in British Superbikes?
Oh. Right. Not necessarily. I think most of these, for me, will come from winners of BSB, because I can't remember everybody. We've had some belters, haven't we? Yeah. I mean, people like Tom Sykes, who then went on to become, he rode in BSB and he went on to become world champ.
Carl Crutchlow.
It depends. If you go back further than what is BSB from 96, I would say British Superbike started when Superbike started in 1988, right?
Yes.
That's when the Superbike era is. So from then, you've got people like Neil McKenzie, you've got
James
Chris
Whittam.
Walker, I was in there.
You've got Ian Simpson.
Cal Fogarty. But then coming through, you've got John Reynolds, Neil Hodgson, Troy Bayliss, Greg LaVia, Shane Byrne, Leon Haslam.
Yuichi Kianari.
Who can discount Ruichi? At times, Kianari was spectacularly fast and dominant.
Yes.
You forget that. Also, Jason Allen.
Jonathan Ray.
It just... it's an hard one to call, but the 10 would come from most of that. Who do I think's most talented person ever to ride? No, it's a different question. In BSB, Bayliss. I think Bayliss, he won a British championship, he won a BSB championship, second year in, went on to win his multiple World Superbike championships at a time when it wasn't a lull. People said, but, he got this and he was lucky. Never lucky. Always ground it out. Would pick himself up from getting a big beating and still go. Just
he was
a
remarkable.
Brilliant all-rounder. I have a lot of time for Bayliss.
And such an unassuming bloke. Him and that lovely wife of his, we just see them at an airport quietly sat in a corner.
Like to be here on Sunday night, which is another thing I liked him for. Yeah. And he made a comeback at 51, a few years ago in Aussie Championship. Yeah. And we went out there for Eurosport, and I was keen because there were Aussie Championship same weekend. I thought, well, I'm keen to go and say hello to my old mate, And I went up, and I thought he was just taking it like a bit of a laugh. No.
Well,
I said, 50-year-old and you're still doing this shit? And he said, Yeah, I'm not looking about either. Went, oh, okay. Hard man. So that would be my pick of the best. But hey, any of the ones I've just said, pick your 10. There's been some brilliant riders through it.
I don't think we mentioned Chris Walker.
I did mention Chris Walker.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and if I've forgotten anybody, I'm really, really sorry. Scott Redding came, never seen most of them circuits, and still managed to grind results out and win a championship. Big flipping respect for that. I didn't think he'd be able to do it.
And Josh Brooks from longevity. He's been along in there for a long time.
Dominated at times. You forget that when other people were winning their championships, Josh Brooks was sometimes, last round, Josh Brooks were out of sight. You think you were watching the championship unfold, but you were actually watching it race for second and third.
Yeah.
I saw that a couple of times. Yeah, great rider.
And Lucy Jenkins has got in touch with Toprak's contract with BMW ends this year.
Yep.
Do you think he will stay in the World Superbike paddock and try and be the first rider to win for 3 different manufacturers?
That's
and if so, for who? Or will he head to MotoGP?
The challenge of trying to win for 3 different manufacturers kind of doesn't hold a lot of water to me. I don't think you'd do that. I mean, I've heard it said that Rossi wanted to win on 2 different manufacturers. I think there were more to it than that. And even when Lawson went from Yamaha to Honda, there was more to it than that. I think he got paid quite a lot more money for Honda. So I don't think he'd do it just for the crack.
Can I ask, do you think that Toprak's fabulously extravagant
would work in MotoGP?
Would work in MotoGP.
All I'd say is his bike control is unbelievable. And the way, when he came off a Kawasaki and got on a Yamaha, what did everybody say? Everybody. Inside the paddock, outside the paddock. Yeah, won't be able to do it on a Yamaha. Needs riding a different way. Won't be able to do it. Guess what? He learned. And he could do it.
Yes.
Jumped on a BM. Nah, he's going off the best rider. Fair enough, the Yam wasn't the quickest at times.
Yeah, but nobody else had done that on a BMW.
Rest my case.
Yeah.
Could he make the switch? Yes, I believe he could. I think he's as good as most people in MotoGP. I really do. The bike control is good enough so that he'll be able to learn his way around what he needs to learn his way
Would you like to see him do that next year?
I would love to see him do that. I think, I know him to speak to at Paddock and he's lovely, but I think if it was me, if I were him, I'd look back on a career that was brilliant in 20 years' time. And if he doesn't go to MotoGP, he would probably regret not having a go if he got the chance.
Paddock PA, powered by Net Performance.
Paddock PA, ladies and gentlemen, upcoming rider birthdays. We'd like to wish a happy birthday to Brad Ray. Oh, that's happy birthday, Brad, May the 16th. And the British Superbike Championship appropriately making the first of 2 visits to Donington Park for a triple header on the Grand Prix circuit this coming weekend. Tickets can be booked online, tickets.msv.com, at a discounted price, or pay full price on the gate on the day. Children under 13 can attend for free.
Yeah, that's a big thing for BSB, kids free. I think that was a flipping masterstroke on their part. Loads of kids, which means loads of families, which is brilliant. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, obviously, one for me here, Isle of Man TT races. Everybody knows about that. Grandstand tickets, if you're there, still available. Not much is still available at the TT. Certainly an hotel bed, not available. An Airbnb, not available. You struggle to get on the ferry because it is so popular. Qualifying week starts Monday 26th of May and ends, last practice is Friday, or practice week finishes Friday 30th of May. Race week straight after that, so Saturday 31st of May, and runs right through to the senior on the 7th of June.
Upcoming club meets and ride-outs, starting out with a Brixham bike night at the Trawler Pub, Brixham, South Durham. Thursday the 15th of May.
That's Devon, don't go to bloody Durham. If you're going to the Brixham, that's Devon.
I said South Devon, didn't I?
You said Durham.
With Brixham bike night at the Trawler Pub, Brixham, South Durham. Thursday the 15th of May. That's tonight. Gates open at 5 p.m. Live band from 6. £2 donation on the gate.
Yeah, quick tip there for everybody. It's not Durham. It's Devon. You said it again.
I didn't.
You did. Honestly, I was listening for it, and we're leaving that one in. It's Devon, right? So All you got to do is look
I
where
can't-
Brixham is before you set off, right? Put it in your sat-nav. Right, I'm going now. The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's a big thing now, is the DGR. So it's Sunday, 16th of May. And
No,
it's,
18th of May, according to one I've got here.
oh, Christ, Brixham.
18th of May.
Sunday, 18th of May. 16th would be a Friday, wouldn't it?
Indeed.
Don't go on
No,
Friday. Don't get your tweeds out Friday. Yeah, Sunday 18th of May, and it's worldwide classic and vintage style motorcycles, dressing dapper and riding to raise funds and awareness for men's mental health and prostate cancer research. Still time to register, although some 85,000 people have done so far. If you do at this stage want to register, all the W's gentlemansride.com.
Now, the throttle therapy ride out for Snap It brackets mental health resource for children. That's Saturday the 17th of May. 12 a.m. meet at the Square and Compass pub, Station Road, Darleydale, Derbyshire, for a scenic ride around the peaks. £5 per biker.
Rugby Bike Fest, that's down as a family-friendly bike festival. Sunday 18th of May, 10:30 till 4 p.m. I'm guessing that's rugby. Doesn't exactly say where it is, but it'll be rugby in Warwickshire.
Next, the West Beach Cafe Bike Night. That's at Littlehampton.
Durham. Sorry, Jack.
It doesn't say where Littlehampton is. Wednesday, the 21st of May, 6 p.m. until 8:30 p.m.
A bike night at the Borough Arms, that's Lymington, Hampshire. Monday 26th of May at 5 p.m.
Do you know, that's where I left my Triumph Speed Twin in 1970 after riding all the way down from Leeds to go,
Where do you leave it?
to go across to the Isle of Wight Rock Festival.
Right.
Lymington, which is right opposite the Isle of Wight.
Might still be there.
No, I did pick it up on the way. That's how I got home, or at least back to Leeds. Next, the Red Heart Bike Night is at Misterton, Nottinghamshire. Get the right county. Thursday, the 5th of June. It's open from 4 p.m. and food is available from 5:30.
Right, they've been fairly light-hearted till now. Not so this one. This is deadly serious and close to my heart and yours, Jack, and everybody in the BSB paddock. So there's a fundraiser, Tattoo Day, Sunday, 25th of May. Harley Blue Tattoo, Brown Hills, Walsall, 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. And this is to raise money for the families of Shane Richardson and Owen Jenner. You don't have to get a tattoo. It's not about the tattoos. It's about your love of racing and supporting two bereaved families, and really nice families as well, I have to say. There's a £30 minimum donation for a tattoo, but again, it's not about the tattoo. Don't think it's going to be some kind of... this is about the families of Shane and Owen.
So, folks, do please get in touch with us for any...
Yeah, get in touch. Let us know what you're doing. We love all this stuff. I
Yes.
love the motorbike, so I'm flipping surrounded by them. I live all my life surrounded by this crap. So
birthdays,
events
anything.
you've got going on, daft rides
Yes.
you're doing. Have you got a moped and you're going to go from John O'Groats to Land's End? Or some stupid... I love all like that. So, yeah, let us know.
Oh, no,
also, questions.
Only you and the Scottish contingent have gone that far, mate.
Yeah.
You can contact us via our email, of course, which
Yep.
is TheOutsideLinePodcast@gmail.com.
Haven't you got to do that? Because there's nothing above us, but you've got a point to where they're going to put the graph. That's what you do. You can do it here.
You can
That's
do it
just my
here.
scabby roof, by the way, you're looking at now.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. And we'll hopefully see you again next time on the far side of your visit to the TT.
I'm looking forward to see how busy a night it is at the Brixham Arms in Durham this weekend. Well, like Christ, there's not a lot of bikers turned up, man. You're poking at them with it.
After we've come all the way up here, but bloody hell, what's all this about? James, thanks very much for
Yeah,
your
it's
company.
been great again. Cheers. Jack.
Enjoy the TT.
Thanks, man.
I hope it's a safe one, as
Yeah.
well as a lovely
Safe for
sunny
everybody.
one.
Yeah.